good old stories. We're backing up a little bit from the book of David, not the book of David, but the story of David that he covered last week. This is the story of Ruth. Comes a few generations before David. Ruth is actually in the genealogy of David, as you will come to find out. But before we dive into the word, just a couple of things. Number one, I am not a preacher, so there is no PowerPoint. What I am is a storyteller. And so I just invite you to just sit and listen today. Just be a part of the story, and I will do voices, okay? Ask my children. I am really good at all the voices, so you will not be disappointed, all right? Secondly, would you just pray with me? Lord, thank you for Labor Day Sundays. Thank you for uncomfortable, unexpected moments. Thank you for every person that walked in this door today to see an unfamiliar face standing on the stage ready to give them the word. I pray that you would speak through me, but I also pray, God, that their hearts and their minds and that deep, deep place of their souls would be open and ready to receive your word. And everyone said, Amen. All right, here we go. So Ruth, I'm gonna tell you the end before the beginning. Sometimes with the kids, we give them like the phrase, like so they can tell their parents what they learned. Like, here's what we learned today. So when your mom and dad ask, you can tell them. And so Ruth is a story of restoration. Okay? Now you know. So when your kids ask what you learned in service today, you can say, "Oh, Miss Meg taught us about restoration." Okay? Just to frame that a little bit for you, restore, some synonyms. To bring back, to reinstate, to renovate, to return. Those are definition items. And then synonyms like freshen, refresh, recreate, rejuvenate, renew, resuscitate. Sounds like really good skincare, I think. So here's the thing about restoration is it implies brokenness. Because you cannot restore something that has not already been broken. Okay, so I don't restore furniture. Anybody in here restore furniture? But I did watch a YouTube tutorial, so I can speak to you about it just a little bit. And it turns out it's not a fun process. So if there's a chair, like a wooden chair that you're planning to restore, there's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen in the process of the restoration. There's sanding, there's taking out the old rusty hardware and screwing in new hardware. There's removing that old leather seat that's cracked and peeling and refinishing it. There's staining, there's waiting. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes YouTube tutorials, it takes money, it takes a lot. It doesn't just get restored because you say, I'm going to restore this chair, boom, the next day it's restored, right? No, it takes a lot of time. I need one more drink, sorry. What can you write in the chat now, you guys? Do I look better than Pastor David? Meg's outfit?
I'm not standing and clapping on that.
Cammie did still pick it out for me, though, so. Thank you, Cammie. So, okay, and just to give you a little more framework, one of my favorite stories from the New Testament, Luke 8, we covered this back when we did the JXP series, so any of you who were involved in our Jesus Experience groups, we talked about, in Luke chapter 8, the woman with the issue of blood. Her story in a nutshell is she had been hemorrhaging for 12 years and had tried everything. And one day hears that Jesus has come to her town, and she's at the end of her rope, y'all. She's tried everything else, but she has heard about the Messiah, the Savior, the healer, the rabbi, and the miracles that he's been doing. So I think she probably gets a little glimmer of hope and thinks, what the heck? Crawls through a crowd, you know, and this woman would have been considered unclean. I don't want to spend too much time on her story, but there are a lot of reasons why she shouldn't have left her house and gone out into the crowd. It was a dangerous thing for her to do that. But she makes her way through the crowd, touches the corner of Jesus's robe, and instantly is healed. Her bleeding, her 12 years of bleeding has stopped in a moment. And Jesus feels power leave him, he turns around and he says, who touched me? He knows power left. Ooh, do you speak up in that moment? I don't know. That's scary. And the disciples are like, Jesus, it's crowded. Look at all, there's people all around. Who touched me? He knew, okay? He looks down and he sees a woman kneeling at his feet, who was me, Lord. And he says to her, daughter, your faith has healed you, okay? So that moment is restoration. When that moment occurs, boom, transformation, instantaneous transformation. Healing, miracle, power, glory, boom. 12 years of hemorrhaging stops, okay? That's restoration. But I'm not going to talk to you about that yet. What I want to talk to you about is the 12 years of hemorrhaging, okay? Ruth chapter 1. Mom, I'm wearing my reading glasses. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. And a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, his wife's name Naomi. And the names of their 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. Awesome names. They were Ephraimites from Bethlehem in Judah, and they went to Moab to live there. Now, Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left alone with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both of the sons, Mahlon and Chilion, also died. And Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Wow, so uplifting of a beginning of a story. Okay, there is famine in the land of Bethlehem. And it had to have gotten to a point that it was bad enough to leave. So we are leaving. You see, in this picture, you see Naomi and Elimelech, okay, leaving their homeland, going on a journey because we're starving to death. If we don't leave, we're going to find food. Talk about getting outside your comfort zone, right? Living your homeland, going to a foreign land because your hunger is so great. So, okay, got a little bit of hope. We're leaving. We're in hope of finding food. We're in hope of continuing our life. We're in hope of rebuilding our future, having a family in Moab. It's going to be great. And what is the first thing we learn? Naomi's husband, Elimelech, dies. He dies. Okay, maybe the food disagreed with him. Foreign land, foreign food, who knows, right? We can speculate all the things. So she's left with 2 sons. Her sons marry women from Moab, Moabite women, foreign women, okay? Mahlon and Chilion marry Orpah and Ruth. Some time passes, and then we learn both of these sons die as well. They both pass. And so now we see Ruth and Orpah and mom-in-law just wringing their hands. What do we do? Where do we go from here? This is not what we had planned. This is not the story we were building, okay? So we've got a couple of different things going on here. We have death, possibly disease, probably despair, probably really deep grief. Really deep grief. I mean, can you even imagine to have the hope that you're going to rebuild, and then not only does your husband die, but your 2 sons pass as well? I mean, I can't even imagine the layers and the levels and the depths of grief that Naomi must have been going through. Sounds like the sanding has begun, right? Yeah. That chair is being sanded. All right, here's what happens next. This is still Ruth chapter 1. Now I'm in verse 6 because it's story time. When Naomi heard that the Lord had come to the aid of his people in Bethlehem by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. So with her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you to your own mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness, for you have shown kindness to the dead and to me. And may the Lord grant to each of you that you will find rest in the home of another husband." Right? She's being very pleasant. Go back, okay? I don't want you here. Go back. Let me be alone in my grief, please, daughters. Okay? So then she kissed them and they wept. Go back to your people, all right? Naomi says a second time, okay, because the daughters are not leaving. So a second time, Naomi says, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have more sons in my old age who will then grow up to become your husbands? Return home. I am too old. And even if I had a husband tonight and gave birth, are you going to wait for those boys? No. No. It is more bitter for me than you because the Lord's hand has set out against me." Ooh. So Orpah kisses Naomi and is like, "All right, peace out. I'm going home to my mama. I'm done. I'm not hanging around this mess," right? And so Ruth is still hanging around. Naomi looks at Ruth and says, "Your sister-in-law went back to her people and her gods, the gods of Moab. Why don't you go with her, Ruth?" Ruth replied, okay, I'm going to give you a couple interpretations of this. So here's the first. Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. For where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. And your people will be my people, and your God, my God. And where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. And may the Lord deal with me ever so severely, if anything but death separates you from me." And when Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the way I read that, normally when we hear this scripture taught on, it's taught in this manner. Ruth's loyalty, Ruth's love and care for her mother-in-law, her persistence, okay? But here's how I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read it a little bit differently. Don't urge me to leave or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. When you die, I will die. Where you buried, I will be buried. May the Lord be with me ever so severely, if anything but death separates you from me. I actually think, guys, I think that Ruth, maybe, I'm speculating, can't prove it. I think she might have actually been doubling down because she was too afraid to be alone, okay? She had left her mama and her foreign Moabite gods to become married to this man of Bethlehem, okay, with these new gods. What is this God? The one true, what is this? So to go back home to Moabite mama could be rejection, could be any number of things. 10 years has passed. You know what I mean? Maybe she doesn't even want to serve that God anymore. Maybe she's seeing some sparkle in this God over here and is thinking, well, there's some stuff over here that I'm interested in. Okay? So I think she was doubling down. That's the bet I'm placing today. Okay? So when you make your plans and you set your course, and when you get to Moab and everything fails, everything you planned goes off course, how do you respond in that moment? You know? Are you like a Naomi and do you wallow in the grief? Are you like Orpah and you run? Or are you like Ruth and you double down? No, I am going with you, Naomi. I do not want to be alone. Okay? They head back to Bethlehem. Ruth and mom-in-law Just little side note here too. Anybody know what Bethlehem means? Land of bread, house of bread. There was a famine in the house of bread, you guys. How can the house of bread have a famine? Sometimes we're named something, but we are not living the something. We're empty of the something. You're named joy, but you don't have joy. It doesn't mean you're not meant to be joy, okay? It's okay. That's just side note for you, okay? All right, coming back, we're in Ruth 2 now. We're somewhere in Ruth 2. Let me find it. I'm not a preacher, you guys. It takes me a minute, okay? I got Nikki in the nest. All right, so here's what's going on. They make their way back to Bethlehem. Everybody's excited. It's like, oh my gosh, this is Naomi. Do you remember her? She had her husband and 2 boys when she left. She left full. She came back empty. Came back empty. So empty that she actually said, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, which means bitter, because the Lord has dealt with me bitterly. This woman was depressed, you guys, and I don't blame her. I would have been too. So what they start doing, it's harvest season, and the fields are ready for harvest. And so Naomi says to Ruth, I'm just going to summarize this chapter for you a little bit. Naomi says to Ruth, daughter, go find a field and glean in the field. And so at that time, it was customary that the harvesters would go into the field, but they were actually instructed to leave just a little bit at the edge of the field so that the poor, the lost, could come along and just like pick up those little pieces, right? So that they would have a portion, that there would be something for those who have lack. So Naomi says, go find a field and start gleaning in the field. So Ruth obeys. She goes out, she finds a field, and she's noticed. Just then, Ruth is gleaning in the field, and Boaz, we have a new character in the story. His name is Boaz, okay? Boaz arrived and was greeted by the harvesters, the Lord be with you, be also with you. And then Boaz looked and he asked the foreman of his harvest, whose young woman is that? I told you I'd do voices. Did you guys like that one? The foreman replied, she is the Moabitess who came back from Moab with Naomi. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves behind the harvesters. She went into the field and she's worked steadily from morning until now, except for a short rest at the shelter. So Boaz went to Ruth and he said to her, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in anybody else's field. Stay here with my servant girls. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after my servant girls. I have told the men not to touch you. And whenever you're thirsty, get a drink from the water, the jars the men have filled. At this, she bows down with her face on the ground and exclaimed, why have I found such favor in your eyes that you would notice me, a foreigner? Boaz replied, well, I've been told all about how you were really persistent with your mother-in-law and really dog-headed and you wouldn't leave. No, how you were loyal and lovely. You choose your version of the story, okay? So he says to her, you came home to live with these people that you did not know. So may the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. She says, may I continue to find favor in your eyes, my Lord. You have given me comfort and spoken kindly to your servant, though I do not have the standing of one of your servant girls. So I think what we're beginning to see here is some identity in Ruth, some identity issues, you know? Who am I that you would notice me? I don't even have the status of one of your servant girls. Why would you look on me? I don't belong here. I stick out like a sore thumb. I don't know your customs. This field gleaning is new to me. I'm uncomfortable. This is discomfort, right? Out of her comfort zone now, you know? Not, again, we're living in this place that is not what we had planned, okay? And I imagine even for Naomi, returning back to your homeland, but returning home empty, must feel totally disorienting. You know, to go away and come back 10 years later and it's a totally different place, and all the life that she had lived in those 10 years, it's not the same place. It's home, but it feels different. Okay? Boaz goes on to invite Ruth to come have lunch with his workers and his servants. And he's prepared a table. His servants have roasted the grain. And she joins them. And I think it's such a beautiful picture that we don't set the table for ourselves, you guys. Okay? When we're in this place of emptiness and just day to day, I'm just picking up the grain for this day, right? I'm just picking it up. It's hard to see far ahead. And, well, there it went. And it's especially hard when you've had that much loss, right? Because she had been in a place where she was imagining her future. I married this cute Bethlehem guy. We're going to have all the babies. Life's going to be great. Maybe I'll get into restoring furniture, you know? And instead, none of those things happened. She doubles down, pursues a different life, now in a foreign land herself, you know? Just living this day to day, day to day. Not thinking that there could be a table prepared for her, that somebody has taken the care to roast the grain, to bake the bread. And even as she eats the bread and sips the wine, he says, "No, Ruth, my daughter, come here. Hold out your apron. Let me fill even more grain, okay?" So he pours even more grain into her apron. She goes home for the day and, dumps it all out to mom-in-law. "Naomi, look, look at my day of field gleaning. What a win I have here." And Naomi says, "Oh my gosh, whose field were you gleaning in? This is not the take that gleaners usually walk in the door with, okay? This is abundance and overflow and a whole lot. It is not lack anymore, okay?" And she says, "Well, his name is Boaz." Boaz. Naomi knows Boaz. She knows that name. He's a relative. You know what she says to Ruth? "Oh my gosh, Ruth. He's one of our redeemers. He is a kinsman redeemer." Let me explain to you what that phrase means, because it's not something that we use today. So in this time, it was customary that if the husband died, the next closest relative in line would take the wife as his own in order to perpetuate the generation on behalf of his brother, okay? So that the generation and the lineage could continue, all right? You with me? Everybody understand that term? Okay. I've got a little more speculation for you. I think Naomi knew her original husband, Elimelech, is from the tribe of Judah. It had been prophesied that the Messiah would be from the tribe of Judah, okay? Somewhere deep in her belly, I think she thought or knew or heard, "I think that's my line. Maybe that's mine and Elimelech's line. Maybe it's our children. Maybe our children's children. We're part of the line. We're in the tribe of the Messiah." Maybe, right? You ever have those knowings deep in your knower? Way down, they're just birthed inside of you somewhere, and they're planted there, okay? But what happened? Husband died, sons died. Forget about it, right? We just do away with that. There is too much pain there to even go there, okay? And so I think in this moment, when she hears the name Boaz, it's like, oh, I had totally forgotten about a kinsman redeemer. Wasn't even in my thinking. That had died. I'm not here for that. That part of my story is death. And it's pain. And it's discomfort. I'm disoriented. I'm discontent. I'm dissatisfied. I'm really discouraged and disappointed. Call me bitter. Okay? Whole lot of all those words, discouraged, disappointed, discontent. That is, you guys, that's the middle. That's the 12 years of hemorrhaging, okay? It's a whole lot of It's a whole lot of mess. It's a whole lot of pain, okay? And we cope. Naomi put up her walls and moved back and taught her daughter-in-law to glean. And she has a moment, okay, where she can either keep those walls up because it is too can I say freaking? Almost said freaking. I'm going for it. It is too freaking painful. Sorry, onliners. I don't know. Maybe you like the freaking. Too painful to go forward and to hope again. You ever been in that place? Where it hurts to hope? Oh my gosh, I can't go there. Are you kidding me? I'll just be hurt again. No, I'm putting those walls back up. I am not going to be hurt again. Fool me once, fool me twice. Naomi will not be fooled. But Naomi didn't do that. Naomi decided to try one more time. I'm going to step forward and I'm going to say, this is Naomi, okay? He's our Redeemer. You just so happened, daughter-in-law, to step into the field of the man who's our Redeemer. Are you kidding me right now? You just so happened, and he just so happened to notice you, and he just so happened to invite you to his table, and he just so happened to pour out all the extra grain into your apron? Ooh, he's a Redeemer. This is Ruth chapter 3. One day, Naomi said to Ruth, "My daughter, should I not try to find a home for you where you will be well provided for? Is not Boaz, with whose servant girls you have been, a kinsman of ours, a redeemer of ours?" We're at the end of barley harvest now, okay? Harvest time has come to a completion. Time has passed. Tonight, Boaz will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash and perfume yourself. Put on your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. And when he lies down, note the place where he is lying, and then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He will tell you what to do. Here's good old Ruth. I will do whatever you say. So she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. I'm sure she's thinking, what strange customs these people have. Right? What? How weird is this? You want me to get all dolled up, put on my best outfit, perfume, get the mani-pedi, the blowout, the whole thing, and then I go find him when he's asleep, and I lay at his feet? Like, feels a little weird. I also think, we talk about Naomi having to put her walls down, finding that little glimmer of hope and that willingness to walk into that again. I think Ruth finds that glimmer of hope too. Because she followed her husband's God when they were in Moab. She learned about this new God. Hubby dies. I don't understand this new God. Why would he let my husband die? It doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem right or lovely, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm in a lot of fear. I don't want to be left alone. I'm going to cling to my mother-in-law and her God, and I'm going to see where this takes me. Okay, so I think to this point in Ruth's story, she's following somebody else's God, all right? And I think what we begin to see here is she is going to discover who this Lord is for herself, okay? So she's got a flutter of hope in her belly too. She's going down to the threshing floor, and while we're there, just like the Bethlehem side note, the threshing floor, do y'all know what this is? This is where they take the wheat and they grind it together as hard as they can with stones, okay? Just like that. Put that in the chat. Okay? And the hard outer edges of the wheat or of the barley fall down and fall off, or crushed aside, and the fruit that is inside, the kernel of the grain, is what's left. What a beautiful picture of the sanding of that chair that we're trying to restore. You know what I mean? Here's just another image laid in of sanding. What else do you do? I don't know. I need another metaphor. Surely there's more than sanding that we do. Okay. Back to the text. So Boaz was at the threshing floor. He finished eating and drinking, and he was in good spirits. And he went over to lie down at the far end of the grain pile, and Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. In the middle of the night, something startled the man, and he turned and discovered a woman lying at his feet. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your servant Ruth," she said. "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a kinsman redeemer." "The Lord bless you, my daughter," he replied. "This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid, for I will do all that you ask. All my fellow townsmen know that you are a woman of noble character. And although it is true that I am near of kin, there is a nearer Redeemer than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to redeem, good, let him redeem. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie here until morning." Whoa, did you catch that? What a roller coaster this is. She lays at his feet. He wakes up. Who's at my feet? Like, what is going on here? It's the middle of the night. I'm not expecting anybody in the grain pile with me, let alone lying at my feet. And then to discover it's Ruth. Ruth, what are you doing here? "Spread the corner of your garment over me, for you're a redeemer." Oh my gosh, what a beautiful picture that is, right? We don't redeem ourselves. Blood of Jesus redeems us, right? It covers us. The corner of his garment covers us. So he's like, "Oh yeah, wow, you picked me?" yeah, I am a redeemer, but you know that other Joe Schmo? He's nearer than I. He really has first right to redeem you and Naomi's land. So let me go talk to him in the morning and we'll find out what's going on. Okay? So what does Ruth do? She lays at his feet until morning. So if you have ever heard a message spoken on Ruth, or if you've read it yourself or heard scholars or anybody speak about it, they will tell you that this picture of Boaz is also a metaphor for Christ. She lay at his feet until morning. And you know how Pastor David has been showing us the crimson thread that goes through all of these stories, right? Like, you don't need the New Testament to preach Jesus. He's in the whole thing, okay? So this is that crimson thread. She lay at his feet until morning. How often do we get up in the middle of our long night instead of stay at the feet of Jesus? How often do we walk in our own strength, do everything that we think that we're supposed to be doing to manufacture it, to make it happen, right? There are so many things that we do instead of lay at his feet. We will do and we will distract, or we will numb and we will sedate. We will scroll. I online shop. I like to find those discounts. But it prevents us from laying at his feet. That's where the restoration happens, you guys. It's at the feet of Jesus. It's at the feet of our Redeemer. Don't be too quick to get up from his feet. Okay? That woman who had the issue of blood, man, she had been through it. She had tried all of the doctors. She had tried all of the natural remedies. She had tried all of the prayers and all of the diviners and all of the everythings there was to try. But when did her restoration happen? When she laid at the feet, when she touched the garment of Jesus. That's when it happens, okay? The next day, Boaz, being a man of his word, goes to the city gate and he sits there waiting for the Joe Schmo kinsman redeemer to show up. Come over here, my friend. Sit down, sit down, sit down. So Boaz then took 10 of the elders of the town and he said, sit down, sit down, sit down. And he said to the kinsman Joe Schmo redeemer, Naomi, who has come back from the land of Moab, is selling a piece of her land that belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it here in the presence of the elders and of my people. Because if you will redeem it, great, that's fine with me. But if you choose not to redeem it, then I'd really like to redeem it. And Joe Schmo says, oh, I will redeem it. I'll redeem the land, sure. And then Boaz says, I forgot to mention, on the day that you buy the land from Naomi, you also inherit Ruth, her daughter-in-law, the woman from Moab, to maintain the name of the dead man's property. And Joe Schmo goes, oh, yeah, I actually can't do that. That would endanger my own estate. My wife would not be happy about that. Yeah. You redeem it yourself. I cannot do it. Okay? So now, in the early times of Israel, for the redemption and transfer of property to become final, one party took off his sandal and he gave it to the other, as this was the method of legalizing transactions in Israel. Well, what have we here? Sandal swapping, okay? So, just put yourself in Ruth's shoes for a second. She lays at Boaz's feet till morning, sneaks off, goes home to Naomi. Naomi didn't sleep all night, you guys. No way was Naomi sleeping. She's waiting for Ruth to get back and give her a report. So Ruth comes in the door. Tell me, daughter. Tell me what happened. What happened? Well, he's gonna go to the city gate. He's gonna talk to the elders. We just have to wait because there's somebody else, and I don't know, and I'm in this big emotional roller coaster, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And so here's the thing. They just simply have to wait. Sometimes it's out of our control. Sometimes men are swapping sandals at the city gate, and we're waiting for our healing. You know what I mean? It's not on you always, okay? It's not on you always. Sometimes they're swapping, okay? Sometimes you gotta wait. And I know that's uncomfortable too. I know discomfort. How do you get comfortable with the uncomfortable?
That's a good question. Really good question.
You know what happens, you guys? Boaz redeems Ruth. This is chapter 4, verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth. She became his wife. He went to her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The women said to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, who has not left you without a redeemer. May this son be famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you through your old age. Your daughter-in-law, who loves you, is even better to you than 7 sons." What a testimony. This is the same Naomi who called herself bitter, whose dream died in Moab, who left full, got to Moab, came back empty, depressed, grieving, covered with loss, discomfort, discouraged, disappointed, all the things, okay? But she opened her heart to hope again and was redeemed in the most unsuspecting way. Sometimes it has to look completely impossible, because that's when God's glory shows off the greatest. Okay? If we could do it, if she could do it, what good is God's glory if she could have done it herself? No. So if you are ever in an impossible place, an impossible situation, if you are empty, if your promise feels dead, you are in a perfect place to be redeemed, to see the impossible made possible. Okay? You know who he is? He gives us a lot of promises, right? I mean, geez, this book is filled with all the promises. There's so many. I will never leave you or forsake you. Even though you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm with you. Lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Don't worry about tomorrow. Be still and know. I will restore the years the locusts have eaten. Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, they'll return, singing songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. He knows the way I take. When he's tested me, I will come forth as gold. Beautiful promises, right? whatever promise, thank you, whatever promise he has given you, you better believe you're going to be tested on that promise. And your 12 years of hemorrhaging, your walk back from Moab, your gleaning the fields of Bethlehem, that is your refining period of the process. That is where you realize and you test it for yourself too. Are you true? Are you going to come through? Because it sure doesn't feel like it right now. Okay, so these promises will then be tested. I don't know if you've ever heard, there's all these formulas: promise, pain, purpose. I could say it: creation, destruction, restoration. There's a lot of different ways, right? Full, empty, complete. Hope, loss, integration. It's getting to the place where we finally drop all of the dis. We move from our discouragement and we become encouraged. We move from our discontentment, we step into contentment. Okay? Here's who God is. Here's what happens when we allow our hearts to be open and to put our hope back in the Lord. He is the one who binds up the brokenhearted, who sets free the captives, who releases prisoners from darkness, comforts those who mourn, provides for those who grieve, bestows a crown of beauty instead of ashes, pours out the oil of gladness instead of mourning, a garment of praise instead of despair. He restores the places long devastated. Devastated. Where are you, long devastated? Where? He's going to redeem it. He's going to restore it. Put your walls down and allow yourself to hope again. It's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. But he's going to restore. Okay? Stand to your feet. I'd like to pray for you. Jesus, thank you that you are a God who redeems and who restores. And so first, I want to pray for those who identify with Ruth in this story, who have maybe been on the fringes of deciding if you are a God to be trusted. And if any of you today are ready to commit to this God who is the Redeemer, would you just raise your hand and say, today is the day for me. I'm ready to commit to this God and to make him my own God. I see your hands and I pray for you and I just say, Lord, thank you for becoming Lord of these lives, whether it be a first time or a recommitment. Thank you that your hand is on them and you have never left them or forsake them. Thank you that you saw them as they gleaned in the field and you're ready to pour grain and set the table for them. And now I want to pray for those who identify with Naomi. If you have experienced deep grief, deep loss, the death of a dream, broken hope, maybe just raise your hand and I'm going to pray for you as well. And I'm going to say, Lord, only you can fill these empty places. Would you come in and do what only you could do? And would you give them the staying power to wait at your feet during the long night, to get comfortable with the uncomfortable until their moment of restoration arrives? Everyone said, amen. Amen.